Alright guys, so we're back in our next video in the series on land nav. And, what I wanted to talk about a little bit in this series, in this video, is methods of travel. So we're going to touch on each of these, hopefully all in this one video to make it easier. Traveling along an azimuth, traveling along a route, which is just a series of azimuths that you've taken, dead reckoning, and terrain association, which is my preferred way of navigating. And it's pretty easy once you get good at map reading and understand where you are, or roughly where you are on the map is key in that. But we're going to touch on all these, so stay with me, we'll be right back. Traveling along an azimuth, it's pretty easy, and it's the same thing once we get into dead reckoning when we talk about that. But it's as easy as standing on top of our Mount Greylock, again coming over to that ridge line. Again, we got Mount Fitch up there. So we shot our azimuth, which we said was 45 degrees. All we need to do is every so many steps is just take a look at our compass. If we can shoot our azimuth and we got 45 degrees and we can see where that object is, whatever it may be that we're traveling to, we don't really need the compass to keep checking our route of travel. We can walk pretty much right to the object that we're going to. Being that this is the highest point, Mount Greylock, this is a fairly tall ridge line itself, but we may run into something in this area here as far as heavy brush, where we get into some thick vegetation where we can't see our object no longer. So traveling along our 45 degree azimuth, we're going to have to maintain that through that thick brush to end up where we want to be. So I'm going to show you how to set that on the compass. It goes hand in hand. That's actually dead reckoning, and it applies as night as well, where you can't see very far to where you're going if you're traveling a long route. So give me a second, we'll be right back, and I'm going to show you how to set that up on the Kaminga style compass. So stay with me. Alright guys, here we are. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Zoomed in down here, if you remember our thin black line here, which is our lubber line, I've set to 45 degrees. So you can see it in the red underneath it. This next biggest line would obviously be 50. So the one in between 40 and 50 is 45. So all the red is degrees again, and the outside and the black would be mils. So the azimuth that we want to travel on, we want our lubber line to be our direction of travel always. So I've set that to 45 degrees. Now if you can see the illumination, hit the compass on it. The illumination spot on the north seeking arrow here, as I mentioned in one of the other videos, and then we've got this one over here that illuminates as well, which is on the bezel ring that moves. So if we set our lubber line to our 45 degree azimuth, right there like we have it, and move our bezel ring so it lines up with that north arrow on our compass, right there. This is going to make it easier so we don't have to try to keep looking at this lubber line and our degrees. Once we've set that to 45 degrees on our lubber line and we line up our two illuminations, all we have to do while we're walking is make sure that that north illumination on the north and on our bezel ring is lined up, and we're walking along that 45 degree azimuth. You're not going to walk perfectly straight, so sometimes it can go off like that. But you have to try your best to keep them lined up so you're walking on that 45-degree azimuth. So that's going to cover dead reckoning as well. You do exactly the same thing at night, or if you're in thick vegetation during the day, it's the same principle. The only thing you have to accompany that azimuth with from there is a pace count, and we're going to get into that in a later video. That's going to cover how to measure distance on a map. So with our azimuth, setting our azimuth on our compass for dead reckoning and a distance of travel, we'll be good to go. So stay with me and we'll be right back. So that covers traveling along an azimuth. The other one that we talked about was traveling along a route, which is exactly the same thing. Only it's going to be a series of azimuths, that's all it is. So you've just plotted a route. We started out at Mount Greylock, shot our 45-degree azimuth, went to the ridge line. That's one leg of our route, is what I like to call it. Then we shot a new azimuth, say it was 280 from here, and went to Mount Fitch, and then we went 190 back to Mount Greylock. That's traveling along a route with a series of azimuths. So pretty simple there. The last one, my preferred way of travel, is terrain association. So again, Mount Greylock, got our ridge line up here, Mount Fitch. Again, land nav all starts by knowing where you're at on the map, and it's just a series of plotting grid points and or places you want to go, whether you can see them visually or you're plotting them on your map. It's just where you want to go. So terrain association, I know we started out at Mount Greylock. I want to head over to this ridge down here off of Mount Greylock. Say we had a little stream coming down that side of the mountain, and hey, it may have broke off. Without having to keep pulling out my compass and referring back to my map all the time, I can create either check-off points, if you want to call them that, rally points, whatever you want to call it. But once I start traveling off this mountaintop here to my ridge line, I can have a rough idea of where I'm at on that map just by the terrain in front of me. So as I'm walking down, I might have ran into this little creek here, and that's just a quick reference, check off point, rally point, whatever you want to call it, so I know where I'm at in reference to the hilltop here and the ridge line here. And that's just terrain association. It's all the way around. If you had another mountain, big mountain top over here, you can kind of take out your map and orient it using terrain association, as we talked about in the orienting your map video. So it's pretty easy. You just have to really know where you're starting from and really what terrain features look like on a map, and it's pretty simple after that. Again, it's my preferred way to travel. The only time I use dead reckoning or pull out my compass, I may pull out my compass just to shoot an azimuth, but unless it's at night or I'm in thick vegetation, I won't use a pace count, I won't use my compass. I'll just strictly rely on, I have pretty good map reading skills. I know what I'm looking at on the map, so I'll just use terrain association for the most part. So that's going to cover our next video in the series. We're going to get into intersection and resection on the next one. So we'll see you then.